Gentlemen, please welcome the Acting Vice President, Dr. Pedro Vargas, for the speech entitled International Business Spotlight on Game Changers. 这是营运总监 Connie 的翻译。
你们好。It is truly my honor and pleasure to be with you this morning.
是我的荣幸，今天早上能够跟大家相聚在这儿。
I would like to thank President Chang and the organizing committee for the honor of having an opportunity to address this important community on this important day.
我非常感谢张水美理事长，还有筹备委员会的所有的干事们，邀请我来做今天早上的论坛的主讲人员。
I consider a true honor to be here representing my colleagues, the faculty members from Royal Roads University in Victoria, Canada.
我非常荣幸能够代表我们皇家大学商学院的教授们还有同事们来到这边跟大家分享。
I would also like to especially thank Ms. Connie Chang, our Director of our Asia Operations, for your kind translation.
也非常感谢陈慧刚总监今天帮忙我做翻译。
When I was planning the message to share with you today, I had an opportunity to consult with my colleagues back in Canada.
今天来这边跟大家演讲之前呢，我其实也跟我在维多利亚母校本部那边的就是一些在国际贸易方面的教授们交流。
I am a strategy professor. I teach strategic management. So I thought that the best way for me to add value to this important session tonight is to share with you some ideas that would hopefully help you continue to be successful in your businesses.
因为我在加拿大，我是负责教策略管理的。然后呢，我希望今天我给大家带来一些新的概念。
And I tell my students every day that one of the most important duties that they have as managers is to be aware what happens in the world around them.
我常常教我的学生如果他们已经在经理级或者是以上的时候呢，他们的最主要的责任就是去了解现在世界上发生的事情。
Mission statements, strategic plans, and partnerships are really secondary if you don't have the capacity to quickly react and adapt to your changing environment.
就算你的公司有着很好的就是商业计划或者是一些理念，但是如果你不知道世界上在发生什么事情的时候，这些计划书也是没有用的。
When my students ask me for one recommendation that I could share with them on how to continue to thrive, what I tell them is read the news and be aware about changes in the world.
学生常常问我你有什么提议？他就会跟学生说，必须要每一天坚持看新闻。
I got an opportunity to meet Mr. Carlos Slim once. Carlos Slim is the second richest man on the world. I asked him, how did he stay on touch of what happens around the world? And he said that he reads 4 newspapers a day.
他前一阵子有机会跟世界第2最有钱的人聊天，他问了他一个问题：你怎么样能够成为今天的你？他说，每一天坚持看4份报纸。
We are all very busy. We have many duties and responsibilities. We have personnel, we have companies, we have family to take care of. Therefore, reading 4 newspapers a day would be very difficult.
我们每个人都是很忙的，我们有我们工作上的责任，也有我们家庭的责任所以说一天看4份报纸是好像太多了。
So I've identified 4 general trends, mega trends that I would recommend to you to keep your eye on.
所以我今天你好有4个趋势我觉得可以跟大家分享的。
These are, as listed on the slide in front of you, changes in society, changes in economy and commerce, changes in technology, and changes in corporate strategy.
我们在投影仪这边能看到这4点，第一就是社会上的改变，经济与商贸的改变，技术上的改变，还有公司结构性的策略的改变。
Getting ready for this presentation, I consulted with my friend Dr. Fariborz Gadar, who is the director of the Center for Global Business Studies at the University of Penn State, who gave me this message for you.
我来这个年会之前呢，我跟我的一个好朋友，他是宾州大学的一位教授，他是宾州州立大学的国际经济研究中心的总监。这一句话在投影仪上面的，就是他送给大家的一句话。
Social, economic, technological, and environmental areas should be fields where you and your team are constantly tracking.
就是社会、经济、技术跟这个环境上的改动，是你还有你的高级管理人员每一天要放在心中，要了解跟预备好接受这些挑战的事情。
Let me speak a little bit more about each one of these.
容许我解释这4点。
It was said that the world population was about to continue to grow up to 12 billion people by 2013.
首先呢，世界性的人口不断在增长，在2025年的时候，就会从65亿增长到80亿人口。
New studies have shown that those predictions are not accurate, and the latest reports indicate that the world population will probably reach a maximum population of 9 billion people in 30 years from now.
很多人说这个数据并不正确，应该会比现在的预计还要多。预计30年后，就是世界的人口会变成90亿。
That expansion is happening in a context where the annual population growth is significantly reducing, has been significantly reduced through the last few years.
为什么有这样的就是投影仪上变这个数字？因为最近几年一些统计世界的人口是下降的。
That change in our world population is not happening in the same way in all over the world. It's happening in many different ways in different corners.
但是世界有一些地方并不是这样的一个人口的增长的。
North America and Europe are actually seeing a process where there's a natural process of population decrease rather than increased.
那在北美还有在欧洲，人口是减少的。
East Asia and Latin America are seeing the opposite phenomenon.
但是在亚洲还有拉丁美洲，人口是上涨的。
With the greatest rate of growth be expected in Africa, particularly sub-Saharan Africa.
但是在非洲是预计是人口增长最快最多的地域。
East Asia is experiencing a very particular case where there is a rapid age population and a significantly low fertility rate.
在亚太地区呢，现在人口老化的非常的快，但是生育率却非常的慢慢的降低。
Our challenges for the future are not just composed of the number of people that populate our countries, but more importantly, how they believe and belong to those societies.
所以我们现在面对的挑战不只是人口的人数的改动，而是这些人口在这个地域他们的生活方式以后会是怎么样。
Through many centuries, cultural barriers and political barriers kept the different nations away from each other.
过往呢，因为文化的差异，还有政治上的差异，每一个地域都是非常分离的。
During the last 30 years, those barriers are quickly fading away, and society is starting to look significantly different all across the world.
但是随着过去30年，世界的改变，很多地区都是融化了很多的不同的多元文化或者是交流，所以我们现在生活的世界跟30年前就很不一样了。
You and I, you from China and Taiwan, myself from Latin America, have much more in common now than probably our parents and their parents had in common.
你和我，你是中国人，可能生活在大陆，可能生活在台湾，但是我是拉丁美洲人，我们现在有很多共同的地方，但是30年前我的父母还有你们的父母，有着的分别是比我们现在要多得多。
It is very interesting to discover that my children and your children have much more in common than in the previous generations.
还有我的观察就是，我的孩子还有你们的孩子，他们有更多的共同的语言了。
They are much comfortable behaving collectively and spending time together and working together, and that's a wonderful news for the future.
我们下一代他们都很愿意跟就是其他文化的人一起生活，还有就是聊天。
Professor Ricard Monroe, a colleague from Royal Roads University in Victoria, has been doing leading research on what she calls millennials or Generation Y in the last few years.
在我们学校有一个女的教授，她一直是做就是 Y 世代这一世代的人口的那个调研。
Her research has suggested to us, our generation, that we have to be aware of the significant changes that this new generation, Generation Y, represent for the future of our societies.
这个 Y generation Y 世代的人基本上就是80后跟90后的人群，我们的未来就是他们来掌握的。
These new young men and women born after the year 2000 are highly comfortable in entrepreneurship, global perspectives, and the use of technology.
这个世代的人，他们很愿意用高科技，然后他们也是抱着非常开放的观念。
However, their plans for the future and their personal lives are not necessarily identical to the ones that we had at their age.
但是 Y 世代的人跟我们就是前10年或20年生的人的那个理念就非常不一样了。
They don't get their news from the newspaper. They use technology.
Y 世代的人，他们不是看纸张制造的报纸，而是他们是透过网络、电脑、手机来看新闻的。
They interact with each other using new media that goes beyond the traditional borders that we have known.
然后他们不会用传统的交流的工具，而是用新的科技。
Dr. Ricard Monroe's research has also indicated that this new generation is very impatient and they like to be more autonomous than the previous generation.
Y 世代的人呢，他们基本上没有什么耐性，然后他们呢也比较愿意就是隐匿他们的身份。
They work very hard and they love to learn, but they're not very idealistic about pursuing a regular career within an organization in the same way that we have done.
所以 Y 世代这些人呢，他们是很愿意创新，但是呢，他们并不像我们传统的这个年代的人，他们很愿意在一个机构一直去工作，或者是在一个很安稳的情况底下来发展他们的事业。
This research concludes that our parents and us had more in common than our children have with us.
我们这个教授所做的研究就是，我们这个年代还有我们的父母，在就是事业观上面有比较相近的概念，跟 Y 世代是不一样的。
Therefore, we have to start planning right away how to capture their talent and interest to maintain our organization's succession planning in order.
所以我们现在必须要意识到这个 Y 世代的人的才能，他们的兴趣，来计划我们机构还有我们的企业未来的企业的发展的方案。
Another social factor that I would like to share with you is the one that has to do with culture, value, and globalization.
下一个社会方面的改动就是文化价值观的融合。
Our workforce, as shown by the World Economic Forum, has much more diversity in gender and ethnicity than before.
就是这个世界经济论坛的一个报告显示，现在我们有着更多性别、文化还有国籍背景不一样的就是在工作环境上遇到的挑战是比以前要多得多。
Just a few months ago, the World Economic Forum shared the results of a survey of global leaders, particularly ones in China, that indicates that there is a much greater interest in learning about cultural differences, in achieving effective communication, and working with people from other regions of the world than previously.
这个世界经济论坛就是做了一个调研，是在中国大陆做的调研，就是现在国际化的领袖在中国，他们最想学习的就是怎么样有效的做跨文化的沟通，还有培训。
We also have learned that the new generations are more interested than ever in pursuing a career in more than one country.
还有这个新的世代的人群，就是80后、90后的人，他们更愿意在一个国家以外的地方有机会工作。
Attracting and retaining that young talent was identified as the most critical factor by a recent study by PricewaterhouseCoopers.
然后，世界有名的普华永道事务所就做了一个调研，就是怎么样去挽留这个80后、90后的人才，这个是公司未来发展最关键的策略，必须要考虑的。
A recent study by this international consulting firm, PricewaterhouseCoopers, has indicated that 80% of millennials want to pursue a career across boundaries, across national boundaries.
普华永道做的调研发觉，就是包括现在2000年就是这个80后、90后的人，有超过8%的人，他们的人口或者是800万的人口，他们是希望就是在世界不同的地方工作。
This is particularly notorious amongst the Chinese youth, whom 88% of them have expressed this interest in working across the world.
然后在中国的调研当中，有88%的就是80后、90后的人都说希望有机会出国。
The next factor that I would like you to keep in mind is economic integration.
另外一个我们今天要提的要考虑的就是经济上的改动这样一个概念。
I am myself a children of NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement between Canada, the U.S. and Mexico.
可能大家知道，美国、加拿大还有墨西哥在90年代签订了自由贸易合约，然后我是那个世代的人。
Over the last 20 years, I have seen how traditional trade barriers have disappeared, promoting much larger economic activity across nations.
所以在过去20年，我观察到，慢慢把那个贸易的就是障碍拿走之后，世界的改变。
Such economic integration has allowed many countries around the world to experience a significant amount of economic growth, being China and Taiwan great examples.
把贸易障碍拿走之后，看到这个经济跟文化的共融是能够帮助地区性的发展。这个事情这种就是观察，我在中国跟台湾也看到了。
While countries sign free trade agreements, multinational corporations are the organizations that have actually made that trade happen.
其实这些自由贸易的就是合同，很多时候都是很多的大的就是企业跟机构，他们在背后推动的。
The recent study by the World Economic Forum, again for Chinese global leaders, has reveals the future interest of these organizations for trade around the world.
然后在世界经济论坛在中国做的调研就是这些中国的就是商业的领袖，他们最希望就是把他们的公司带到海外，发展到世界化。
Africa, East Europe, North America, and Latin America will likely be the next markets for the Chinese and Taiwanese organizations.
我们相信非洲、东欧、拉丁美洲还有南美洲是中国还有台湾的商人要就是进入的新的就是领域。
When I asked Professor Gadar from Penn State what was a key recommendation that I should convey to you, he mentioned the following quote.
再一次，刚才提到的宾州州立大学的教授，他还有一句话。
Tell your friends in Taiwan, Pedro, that the key to success is to get the marketplace quickly at a reasonable price and look for profitability from a total cycle point of view.
他跟我说，跟你的台湾朋友说，尽快在新的地区占领你的市场占有，在一个合适的价格当中先打进去那个地域，然后随着时间性，然后继续发展，把那个毛利增加。
How should we do that? His response was by developing our value chains.
怎么能够做到呢？首先要建立一个一个连接链，一个价值链。
His recommendations were to keep an eye on 5 challenges for the future for the development of our global value chains.
那他说必须要看到5个挑战，在这个价值链当中。
The first one is intellectual property rights. There is still at present significant amount of confusion and ignorance regarding intellectual property rights across nations.
首先就是知识产权，现在还是有很多的企业家，他们对于知识产权这方面非常的就是幼稚，所以呢没有把这个放在他们的就是在计划当中。
His second recommendation is to promote technology transfer.
第二点就是去推动技术上的就是改进跟就是转让。
Increase the training of our staff members.
第三是把自己的员工不断的在职培训。
Adopt standardized quality and safety criteria.
然后引进世界的就是质量标准跟安全标准。
But most importantly, adopt green processes that would protect our natural environment.
第5个挑战还是最主要的挑战，就是在你所有的决定当中，你必须要想到绿色，想到环保，我们必须要保护这个地球。
Cisco Systems has indicated that the most important revolution that we will see in the next few years is the technological revolution.
那 Cisco 公司 他们的预计就是未来1-2年最大的就是创新还是在这个技术上的创新、科技的创新。
We have witnessed a major digital revolution that is just getting started and will continue to change the way we interact and communicate with each other.
我们的这个就是电子化的就是创新在我们这个时代会继续的快速的增长。
It is expected that the number of handheld devices will multiply by 3 between now and the year 2025.
现在的就是手机或者是手用的智能应用的手机吧，会在2025年期间会增加3倍。
PricewaterhouseCoopers agrees with such recommendation. Through their latest survey of global leaders, they have indicated that 81% of the leading CEOs of the world believe that future transformation in the world order will come from technology.
就是普华永道的研究发觉，就是81%的世界的CEO 领袖，他们相信就是现在世界上最主要的变化跟创新还是在技术上的创新。
Digital economy, social media, mobile devices, and big data will continue to be the topics of our conversations for the next 5 years.
那未来5年就是手机，就是社交网上的社交网络，还有就是在电子方面的就是交易就是都是我们未来5年要就是讨论的话题。
They've also indicated that the other 2 sources of change for the years to come will be demographic change, as already mentioned, and changes in the global world order. Global world order.
就是刚才提到，就是我们人口文化人口还有他们的人口背景的变化，这个是必须要关注之外，就是这个世界的就是每个国家的一些就是权力的大洗牌和经济的就是优先次序，国家的优先次序，这个都是需要关注的。
Innovation via investments in research and development will continue to lead the world economic growth.
所以创新还有就是花资源在那个科研，这个都是必须要继续的。
PricewaterhouseCoopers have indicated that it is expected that the greatest source of innovation will come from the development of new products and services.
普华永道再一次就是预计未来的世界的资源继续会投放在新科技还有新的服务行业。
Products and services that do not exist yet, however, will be quickly adopted by our communities at a very rapid pace.
所以，只要有新的产品或者有新的服务出现的话，世界各地会很快就能够接受跟就是拷贝。
Finally, I would like to recommend that you keep an eye on rapid changes in the world of corporate strategy.
我再给大家提一个意见，就是你们必须要了解跟看准就是世界大型机构或者他们的就是机构的就是调整。
Multinational corporations are being pressed to adopt stricter organizational government policies that would better protect their investors, the environment, and society.
就是跨国的公司，他们现在受到政府的压力或者是各方的压力，无论是在就是道德环保还有就是怎么样去就是花钱等等方面，他们是更加的严厉。这样的话，他们才能够对他们的投资者、他们的就是股票上的股东负责任。
Civil society, represented by non-governmental organizations, NGOs, will continue to play an active role in maintaining organizations following corporate governance rules.
我们也相信，世界上的一些非牟利组织，他们会越来越会发出他们的声音，要求企业在他们的就是企业文化上面更加达到就是道德标准。
So as a conclusion, and thanking you for your kind attention, I would like to leave the following ideas for further reflection and dialogue.
在今天我要总结一下，就是留下现在最后的一些想法，让大家继续的思考。
We need to stop thinking about demography in the traditional ways by defining culture and politics as the only barriers or limitations.
所以我们要就是停止考虑就是文化跟地域的差异是唯一的就是障碍。
And adopt a new psychographic lens to understand how people think and how they behave.
就是我们要戴上一个新的眼镜来看就是现在新的商业周期的变化的这样的要把握在现在新的这个商业周期上面。
The rapid changes that we are seeing in our world will produce greater scarcity of resources and opportunities for access new markets.
那意味着新的就是创新的产品出现或服务出现的时候，也带来新的商机跟资源。
Despite all these changes, I am confident to predict that consumer will continue to be king.
我预计就是在现在不断的新的创新，有新的产品出现的时候，我们的客户都会非常的愿意尝试新的产品的。
Global complexities will bring us an important amount of opportunities and challenges to improve our value chain.
就是世界的大融这样的一个复杂性的文化熔炉，在这样的一个环境底下，提供了一个商机，还有就是一个新的价值链。
Finally, we should be expecting greater standardization in governance models adopted across markets and regions.
还有就是作为企业领袖，我们必须要接受更加严厉的就是机构的结构，还有就是道德的标准。
Thank you very much for your kind attention. I would love to exchange ideas and reflections with you throughout the rest of our session today.
谢谢你们的耐心，还有我很希望就是在演讲之后，在今天的时间里面跟大家有更多的交流。
Thank you.
谢谢。